Welcome to English Practice Stories.
Hey, I've been thinking for a long time whether I should share my story and ask for your opinion, and I've decided to do it now. When I was 2 years old, my biological mother had a serious motorcycle accident and suffered severe brain injuries. She went directly into hospice care and was in a coma. I don't know if you've ever seen someone in a coma, but she looked very different afterward, and as a child, I found her scary. Well, after my mother's accident, I initially stayed with my grandparents, who had already lost their first son and were deeply affected by my mother's accident. My grandparents were unable to care for me, hoping that my mother would magically recover if she saw me, her child, so they repeatedly took me to the hospice. I don't remember it anymore, but whenever I see a picture of my biological mother, I get a terrible fear that I can't explain to myself. Anyway, my grandparents eventually realized that they couldn't take care of me and handed me over to my father, who also couldn't take care of me. So I was passed on to my aunt. I was about 3 at the time, who already had a biological daughter and neglected me severely. Eventually, the authorities found out about this and took me out of the family and placed me in foster care. However, because I was traumatized and screamed in the new families, I was quickly passed through about 10 foster families who all didn't want me until I finally ended up with my parents, who went through hell with me. I had nightmares every night about my mother, wet the bed, and couldn't trust anyone. Now, over 20 years later, everyone notices that I'm different. Due to the trauma in my childhood, I have extreme difficulty trusting people. I have almost no friends, and I am bullied heavily in school because I'm just different. That's my story. My biological mother died 5 years after her accident in hospice, and my grandfather died in 2013, which means my grandmother is the only one left. I've always tried to visit her once a month, but during these visits, she always has pictures of my mother in the kitchen from when she was in a coma, and I'm just afraid. Also, during these visits, my grandmother never asks how I'm doing. She just cries and talks about how she's lost everyone and how terrible her life has been. And she brings up all the old stories from my childhood that I just want to forget. Now, my question is, am I the asshole if I cut off contact with her? Now that she's old, she says I have to visit her because I'm all she has left. But when I was a helpless little child and she was all I had left, she used me and traumatized me for life. So am I the asshole?
If you like our story, subscribe English Practice Stories channel and click the bell icon.